as I was saying, not every practice in South Africa has got the capacity to have qualified optical dispensers employed by the business. A lot of practices are having very well-trained optometric staff members who take on a lot of responsibilities that the practice requires them to take. I encourage you, if you don't have an optical dispenser employed in your practice, the next best thing, which you should immediately prioritize in your practice, is then looking at equipping yourself with information pertaining to styling, frame knowledges, understanding all the other elements that your day-to-day patients will walk into your practice asking you questions about, and therefore your team, who are the ones that are seeing the patients, need to be equipped with the necessary information that will help them better help the patients that are coming into your practices. So Wendy has over 20 years experience specializing in styling, pertaining specifically to the eye care industry. You're going to love her. She travels all over the world discussing eyewear styling. So her presentation plays for 42 minutes, and then we will wrap up with a Q&A session. We did it this way because what she shares, it's so practical, it's so informative, and it's relevant to where majority of our optometric practices are at. So if you had a good and amazing time with my presentation in the morning, you're going to absolutely fall in love with Wendy, because she lives, breathes that which she talks about. So I hope you enjoy. If you do pray, start praying tenderly. I'm not sure if the light might need you.
Hello and welcome to Style to Sell. I have been creating and implementing the system for over 20 years. It is my passion and I am thrilled to be sharing it with you today. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to be here with me. All of your eyes are on me, and you've had about 20 seconds to check me out. In that short amount of time, you've started to form an opinion of me. You are deciding that quickly if you like me, if you want to listen to me, if you're open to learning from me throughout this workshop. You are aware of my facial expressions and my body language. And I know for sure that you are checking out my eyewear, and I'm going to wager a bet that a huge percentage of you would also like to know what shoes I wear. And I'm going to share the shoes. They're these. They match my shirt and they match my glasses. But eyewear and shoes are the two most important fashion accessories. So it makes sense that we're going to look here and then we're going to look down at the shoes. And you are, in this amount of time, trying to figure me out, and you may have wanted to put me into a category of some sort. And that is totally natural. It is human nature for us to categorize and to judge people, and it's not nasty. We just live in a visual society, and we probably more than others in our industry. When we see someone who's different than us, we tend to stare. And the reason we do that is that our brains are trying to make sense of what it is that we're seeing. We're trying to decide if we like that person, if we feel safe, if we want to spend any time with that person or in that environment. And we tend to see others in our world as we are, and not necessarily as they are. We always use ourselves as our frame of reference. It's our experiences in life, our environment that we live in, the people who influence us, and our values that all lead to judgments and maybe categories of people. Like attracts like. It is so easy to connect to someone who's just like you, or you see something in them that's mirrored back to you. And it's not so easy sometimes to connect with people who are different than us. And we may us, people who are different than us, as our difficult patients. And different does not have to mean difficult. There is an assumption and a perception that comes with the way that we choose to put ourselves together and how we see others based on how they put themselves together. And if this gentleman walked into your optical tomorrow morning, what would be your perception or maybe your assumption of him? Just based on that visual appearance. You might think he's a little bit dated. You might think he's maybe stuck a little bit in his skill set. You might think he's not making an awful lot of money, and so then your brain is, well, I won't show him the luxury product. He's likely not going to buy 2 pairs, so I'll only show him 1. He might waste my time. All based on that he might not look trustworthy, which can then affect your interaction with him. That negative visual image can lead to a negative assumption. If the exact same gentleman changed his clothing, had it fit, well tailored, changed his body language, shifted, he has this open, friendly smile on his face. Now what are your thoughts of this same gentleman? Exact same gentleman, but everything shifted. His body language, his clothing, his facial expressions. And we now think maybe 6 figures, CEO, probably can afford to buy a lot of glasses. Might be thinking he's going to buy 4 or 5 pairs of glasses. Hey, he's a guy that I might give my money to. He looks trustworthy. He could invest my money for him. He looks sleek. He looks up to date. That positive visual image then leads to a positive assumption. So our experiences in life that lead to our assumptions are all just based on how someone looks or how someone walks into your clinic. Everyone does this on some level, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. When we make assumptions, whether they're right or they're wrong, our mind then tries to validate that assumption based on that first impression. And it could also lead us to have to think about whether our assumptions were correct or not. So great salespeople make assumptions every single day. And I don't want you to stop making assumptions, but maybe do the opposite. Get really good at making really good assumptions and then learn how to validate them. And as we go through this workshop, I'm going to show you a system to do that. The assumptions we make affects our thoughts, it affects our feelings, which can then affect our actions and how we might treat someone. So based on that, can affect the language that we might use with them, the tone of voice we use to communicate, how we lead them through that patient journey could be impacted by that assumption. And those assumptions can also impact the sales that you close, if the amount of money you make, the promotions that you get in your career. So we don't want to stop making assumptions. We just want to get really, really good at making good assumptions and then quickly validating them or discounting them. I know I've done this where I have someone who's a really good friend now, but when I first met them, I wasn't sure that I liked them. And I had to take some time to ask some questions, and in that case, it discounted my original assumption, and we've been friends for years. Now, we're doing it. We know we're doing it and it's natural. But guess what? Your clients are doing it too when they walk into your practice. Your patients are walking in and they're deciding if you're credible, if they can trust you, if they like you. They're deciding if you look like you have the expertise to fit and style them with eyewear. And they're checking out your eyeglasses for sure. And they might be looking at your frame boards on their way in and deciding that, hey, I don't really see anything I love here. So as soon as I get my prescription, I've got my exit strategy, I'm gonna have to leave for another appointment or whatever the reasoning behind that is. And I can share, as an optician, I sold eyeglasses for 10 years and I never put a pair of eyeglasses on my face. When I look back and I connect the dots of my career path, that was a huge mistake for me because I didn't look like what I was selling. So here I am, 10 years in, I'm working for an optical. I haven't learned really anything new in about 5 years at that point. I was topped out on how much money I was making. I was selling the same frames over and over, just to different people on a different day, and I was completely bored with the industry. I decided to take a big leap and I quit and I went back to school and I trained to become an image consultant. And an image consultant is a stylist, a professional stylist who helps people put together their personal brand through the use of clothing and accessories. And I always loved fashion, so I was having a lot of fun and was thinking in my mind, I'm never going to fit another pair of eyeglasses as long as I live. But what happened was my clients would spend thousands and thousands of dollars from the neck down, putting together an outfit, and then they would pull out their eyeglasses and put them on, and there was a complete disconnect to the style of eyewear and the clothing that we had just invested in to put together their personal brand. So this was my aha moment. I now thought I could also style eyewear to match clothing. And I started a mobile eyewear boutique and decided to really niche down and become an eyewear stylist by appointment only, and I created a mobile eyewear boutique 27 years ago. So now I'm a professional stylist. I'm also an optician. I married the two. I have the technical skill set to fit clients in the best technology lenses, make sure their vision was great. I knew how to adjust a pair of glasses really well, but that was not equating to business success because I was only selling one pair of glasses at a time. My last optical job was buy one, get one free, so I was literally just an order taker. They would choose their first pair, they would choose their second pair from a free section, and I would write the order and get them in the right lenses. So as an entrepreneur in optical, that wasn't working for me. And so what I did for 1 year was I would work with my clients Monday to Friday, and I get them fit in the right glasses. And then I would sit down and I would let my left brain take over and I would deconstruct what I was doing intuitively with each client. And I got a little more scientific in my styling. And what happened was I could see categories of people that were similar to each other in what they valued, what they loved to wear, the fabrics, the patterns, the style of clothing, their business, what they were really good in business. And I found a way to go a little bit deeper with my clients. And so what I did was with that deconstruction, share my screen. With that deconstruction, I created what's now been known for over 2 decades as the 5 spec styles. And these 5 spec styles became foundational to my sales system, and it was a way for me to systemize what I was doing and not impose my style on others, but a way to better understand people, a way to understand people who are a different style than me, a way that I could eliminate judgment and bias. And I also, as I went through the system and I honed it, and I still work this exact process with all my retail clients, is that I could see that everyone was a combination of 2 spec styles or 3 spec styles. And this became my secret sauce. And this was an ethical way to present offers for more than 1 pair of eyeglasses. And so why style? We're eye care professionals, we are medical and technical, but when we start to style, we tap into that emotional connection with our clients, and we can move from transactional to transformational. Now this gentleman, when I first met him, he walked in wearing a tortoiseshell, square, traditional plastic frame. And I asked him, why are you wearing that? And his answer to me was that I bought the same pair of glasses for the last 3 years because I didn't know what else to do and no one offered me anything different. And I sat down and I started to get really curious, asking him questions about his styling, and determined and discovered that he was a combination of subtle sophisticate, he had a little bit of daring dramatic, and a little bit of inspired artist. And I worked with that, and by the end of our appointment, he had bought actually 5 pairs of glasses. I'm only showing you the 4 clear here, that related to all 3 of his spec styles. And now he saw value in buying 5 pairs of glasses. From a functional standpoint, he really needed maybe 2 or 3 at the most. A pair of computer, a pair of progressives, and a pair of sunglasses. But we moved him from 3 to 5 when we started to go a little bit deeper. The 5 spec styles are foundational to this styling system. And what I created was the spec methodology. And that is see, perceive, engage, connect. And that is first, how do you see yourself? Because everything that happens in your optical and in your practice starts with you. Your personal brand, whether it's on brand with your corporate brand, and if it's authentic for you. And then when you're really clear on who you are, then you can move into perceive, which is discovering how your clients want to be perceived. What is their desired image? Which then moves into the engagement, where you create more of that emotional experience with them based on your visual assessment of what you're seeing, and then where you lead the client through the sales process. And then you get to connect. And people will say to me, optometrists, well, can't we just get to close? Can't we just start to impact those numbers right out of the gate? But we have to go through the process. And so today we are really going to focus on C first. And I'd love to share this one story, just how impactful the spec styles can be for your business. Because when I met the client you see here, when I met her for the very first time, she bought 1 pair of eyeglasses, created a beautiful experience, moved her into something that was where she wanted to go in her image and not where she was at, which took a little bit of time to develop that relationship. She got so many compliments on those glasses that she came back to me 4 months later, and she ended up buying her and her partner together ended up buying 13 pairs of eyeglasses. Now, that was my first time selling 13 pairs in one appointment, and I love to share the story because it inspires me to know that it's possible, and I hope that it does that for you too. I want to play a little game with you, so I want everyone to raise your hand for me. And then I want you to bring it down so that it's horizontal. Hopefully you can see me here. And then I want you to bend your arm at 90 degrees, and I want everyone to touch their cheek. How many of you touched your chin? And how many of you touched your cheek? People are paying more attention to what they're seeing than what you are saying. Building trust is easy when we look like what we're selling, and what we're saying is all what we're selling. Yeah, what we're selling and what we're saying is all in sync, and what they're seeing is all in sync with that. Visual influence is one of the most powerful forces in life. As we start to go a little bit deeper into C, the first part is first, how do you see yourself? What is your personal brand? And we are medical and technical eye care professionals, and we are fashion stylists as well. And it's not about one or the other. You can be it all to your clients, and you can be technically brilliant, and you can be a visual influencer. Now, you can be 10 out of 10 technically, and only maybe 5 out of 10 visually and communicating your expertise. And then the question we need to ask is, will you be perceived as a 10 out of 10 or as a 5 out of 10? And you can be a 10 out of 10 visually, you can lean into your charisma and style, but if you can't back it up with technical expertise, then the whole first impression and visual influence falls apart. The magic really is the combination of our technical medical and our fashion and style. This is Dr. K, and when I met Dr. K, she was wearing dark scrubs and a black plastic frame. As we discovered her spec style, she started to show up as her authentic self in clothing that really made her feel confident, changed her eyeglasses to a bright pink, and that first day, which was on a weekend, her sales went up. Her handovers became more impactful, and her team started to follow her lead. So her multi-pair sales went way up. That's the power of getting the whole package together, the 10 out of 10 technical and the 10 out of 10 with your visual presentation. And the nice thing, the neat thing about spec styles is that it can be authentically you. No one wants to show up as someone else and be inauthentic. No one wants to be a knockoff of someone else. And in optometry clinics, we love to analyze the analytics. Every conversation I have with an optical manager, we talk about capture rate, we talk about revenue per patient, and we talk about multi-pair sales, which are all extremely important. But I think before we can truly impact those numbers, it all starts with us as the eye care professionals and how we think and how we communicate and what our actions. Putting that theory into action. And people love to buy from people. And as an eye care professional, you are that impactful first impression. And when I think of all the other stores, if you go into a Lululemon store, which is a athletic leisure store, every person in that store is wearing Lululemon clothing, head to toe. And then if you leave there and you walk into a Nike store, everybody in the Nike store's got like a great pair of Nike running shoes on. And then if you leave there and you walk down the hall to a luxury boutique, are they wearing Lululemon or Nike? Likely not either one of those, because they would be dressed in the clothing that they're selling. And if we're selling eyeglasses, I believe that everybody's looking here first, so we have to have an authentic pair of eyeglasses that make us feel confident, and then of course maybe a great pair of shoes. The 5 spec styles are all encompassing. It is the way people, your clients walk, the way they talk, the eye contact they make, their facial features, that expression on their face like we saw with the gentleman at the beginning, their hairstyle, their clothing style. And I think the facial expressions are the most important, and I call them the remote control of your body language, the remote control of your communication and your relationships, because you can't hide your emotions on your face. The biggest emotions that are represented on your face are happy, sad, disgusting, surprised, fearful. And so your face is saying everything. And so if you're having a bad day and you feel that, the thoughts and the feelings become the actions and they come out in your face, you want to do a quick mental check and go, okay, when that client walks in, I'm turning it on and my face is not going to be representative of how I'm feeling today. Are you ready to look at the 5 spec styles and see who they are? Yeah. Okay, let's go right into the first one, which is the subtle sophisticate. And that first impression when they walk in is they're polished and they're put together and they look meticulous. Everything is well coordinated. And their superpowers, they are in a leadership role, they might be an executive, they have an agenda to their day and they like to follow that agenda. They are the client who, when they walk in, they want to be sure that you see them on time because they have a full schedule and they love lists. So you are part of their list and they want to be able to check it off. They are polished, formal, they are articulate in their speech, and their facial expressions are a little more controlled. They're not going to give you a lot. And I laugh because when I'm working with a subtle sophisticate, my number one goal is just to get them to smile. And I feel if I can get them to smile, then I can move forward with that. They love to wear pearls, they love to wear pumps, they love to button up their jackets, and they are practical and organized in their business too. When it comes to eyewear, if we want to get to like 6 pairs in 6 seconds, we want to look for something that is clean. It can be a blue for a man is a fairly nice classic look, classic and timeless. They might do 2 colors, but no more than 2 colors. They want the glasses to be clean and crisp, thin metals or thin to mid-weight plastic, nothing too boxy, and symmetry is very important. Smooth finishes and something that is crisp, that's in harmony with their facial features. They're not going to break rules when it comes to styling eyewear. The second one is the daring dramatic. And you know when a daring dramatic walks into your clinic because they have presence. It's important to them that you know their name and that you've been waiting for them all day. They like to be the center of attention. They love to wear black, white, and red. They will have defined makeup, striking hair designs. They look confident and assured, and they can be intimidating. And learning the language to work with this spec style is crucial. Because of that intimidation factor, in eye care, in optical, they are one of the most underserved spec styles. And so when you learn to speak with them and understand who they are and be confident in who you are so that there's no intimidation, you can close with credibility. They are innovative, they're fashion forward. They will take what's happening on the runways and pull it into street style. They do not want to live in the shadow. They like to be ahead of the game. They have a little bit of FOMO, which is that fear of missing out. When it comes to their eyewear style, they'll hop on whatever's the latest and the greatest. They will be drawn to high contrast coloring. They sharp design lines, horizontal design lines. They like sharp or severe angles. They are okay breaking rules too. Not when we compare it to the subtle sophisticate, they will break rules, but you've got to be able to communicate why you're breaking the rule in order to create a certain image or look for them. The third spec style is the natural, and they are approachable and relaxed and unpretentious. And as I work with optometrists and eye care professionals, a huge percentage of eye care professionals have the natural as one of their spec styles, which makes sense because they are that professional who's easy to talk to and relaxed and unpretentious. So that all makes sense. Where we have to be careful is that if this is one of our styles and if you are the buyer for your optical, you could be very heavy on eyewear styles for the natural and not have enough of a diverse framework to cater to some of the other spec styles. I always joke, if you tell me your spec styles and you tell me the frames on your board, I will tell you what your capture rate is. That's how powerful and impactful it can be to really know these categories. And of course, to not judge. That, I think, is the biggest thing that I've learned for sure, is this gives me a system, a styling system, that I don't have any bias. And I just try to understand them based on my spec styles. They might only buy one pair, but they'll spend high end, they'll spend money and invest if they know it's going to last a long, long time. They love sustainability. They're going to wear wood, something chunkier, something that looks like it has texture, whether it feels textured in the material or whether it looks textured based on the patterns that are embedded in the material. They are on trend, but they're not, they're very unassuming. More of a lower contrast coloring than what you see with the dramatic. And number 4 is the inspired artist spec style. They don't like rules. Rules were made for everyone else in the universe, but not the inspired artist. They love to experiment with style and fashion. They are innovative and creative, and they'll put together outfits that you think, some people might think don't go together, but for them, they pull it together and it works beautifully. They will mix patterns and colors and really create a look that hopefully no one can mimic, because they don't want what's on trend. They don't want to look like anyone else. And so there's a different language that comes with working with the inspired artist, in that you don't lose them. This is also the person who will walk into your clinic and be scouting those boards very quickly. And if something doesn't jump out and speak to them and interest them and get them excited, they will also be formulating their exit strategy to get out once they've got that new eye test or their new prescription. Their eyewear will be unique design details like you see with the scalloping here on this particular frame. They might look at a vintage style, that straight across bar, which is dynamic, but it's done in a lighter way than what the Daring Dramatic might like, but more of a vintage vibe. They'll love the round, and they'll love bright and light coloring with their eyewear too. They want their eyewear to be more like art and statement and a story. The inspired artist wants to tell a story, not just about their eyewear, but about all of their accessories. An elegant charmer is the last of the 5 spec styles. Then they just exude romanticism. They're mesmerizing, they're poised, they're welcoming. And I'm hoping as we're going through this that you are seeing yourself in 1 or 2 or 3 combinations of these spec styles, because that's the magic, is that we're always a combination of 2 or 3. And how do we bring in the eyewear to complement all 3 with multiple pairs? But they are mesmerizing. If you are an elegant charmer, if you see yourself as this spec style, I hope that you are at the front of the optical, that you are engaging with the clients as they come in, because this is your superpower, that you are welcoming and you come from a place of service, and you make them feel at home. You're very hospitable. And the elegant charmer is the spec style I find when I'm working with them. They want to hug me when I'm finished, because they just feel so seen and understood. They're very charismatic with this warm personality. They have so much love to give, and you feel loved when you're in their presence too. Their clothing will be floral, it will be flowy, it will be luxurious fabrics in cashmere or silks or wools. They will love to accessorize. They might be draping in layers of jewelry when they walk in, or if they don't, then we have to learn, okay, how do we find out if that is something they love and that they do in their wardrobe when they're maybe out another day? Because we know that some of our clients are coming in and they might just be coming from work, and they might be a personal trainer. And now we've got to decide, okay, visually we see them as one spec style. How do we get to unravel their second and their third? And then we do that with a communication and skill set and curious questions. And their eyewear is soft and flowy, made of luxurious high-end titanium. The elegant charmer is the spec style who's going to love that rimless eyeglass, or something very light, thin titanium. The elegant charmer loves it if their eyewear kind of floats across the face. That's very important to them. And they usually want something that's going to elevate their level of dress. So it might be intricate designs. I'd love to show this photo because that frame is actually mimicking a floral petal, which to the elegant charmer would be quite attractive. And the magic the true magic comes from that first 20 seconds. That it might be that first 20 seconds where they're walking in and you're assuming things and you're perceiving them in a certain way, and then you're going to move into that validation and bring it all together to figure out what those spec styles are and how do we make it engaging so that we can get to close with credibility. And when we started this workshop and you were checking me out in that first 20 seconds, did anybody think, I wonder what lenses she's wearing? I wonder what type of progressive it is. I wonder what the material is that she's wearing. What kind of coating does she have? Did anybody think that in the first 20 seconds? Probably not. And as much as medical and technical is number one in our optometry clinics, it might not be enticing enough for clients to buy 2 or 3 or 4 pairs of glasses. But when we can combine that perfect eye exam and dry eye treatment with the best technology lenses with an expert stylist who can then get them into frames that they emotionally connect with their spec style, now that combination is magical and people are inspired to buy more than 1 pair of eyeglasses. In closing, I want to recap the spec methodology and how impactful it can be when we bring everything together. But of course, it starts with you. And it's your combination of technical expertise and visual style that is magical. It's not one or the other, it's the combination of both. And your superpower is your spec style, is your personal brand. Visual influence is one of the most powerful forces in life. And when you can get very clear on who you are and you show up as that authentic eye care professional and you feel confident, you get to take your eyes off yourself for the rest of the day and put all of your focus on your patients. What was that first perception or assumption when you visually assess them? But then going deeper, asking those questions about what they like to wear, what they do in their work, how do they want to be perceived, and then helping them achieve that desired image with eyewear and multiple pairs. And then engage at a level that you really understand who they are based on their combination of spec styles. And when you do all of that, then you get to connect and close with credibility. Embrace all of the spec styles and be spectacular in all you do. Thank you so much for having me. What an honor it is to share this with you. And if you have questions and want to know more, I'm happy to meet with you and answer any of those questions. Have a great day. Be spectacular.
How was that, everyone? Very different, very different. I'm thinking you're thinking to yourself so many questions in terms of a lot of what Wendy was sharing. She's based in Canada, a completely different market. But like I said, she travels all over the world and takes best practices from different parts of the world. Her and I, we're working on a collaborative effort in terms of building something that will be relevant for South Africa and the African market. So had we done this live, I would have given her examples of different types of people that then walk into our practices here in South Africa. And then she will then be able to then take this which she has shared and plug it on top of the different scenarios of patient spec styles that we get to see in our practices. So a quick tip to you guys from my end: first time wearer of glasses walks into our practice and I'm there. First of all, you have a responsibility as practices to know who is going to be wearing the different frames that you have on the shelves. So you have to move away from just ordering frames for the sake of just filling up your shelves, or believing, I want to mention the companies, that come and tell you that these are the latest trends, styles that are in the market. You know your patients. So you have to get to a point where you learn so much about your patient's needs when it comes to their frame preferences and requirements and their eyewear styles, that when frame manufacturing companies come and say these are the frames that you should be getting, you already, for a lot of your patients who have been coming to your practice for a very long time, already start thinking, Dr. Chabalala will love this, so and so will love this, so and so will love this, and not just waiting and hoping that patients is going to buy the frames that are on the shelf. So I do it in a different way. Patient walks in and says to me, I've been having these pair of glasses for 2 years and I want to change them. I get shocked sometimes that a lot of times you don't seal the deal right there and there in terms of the eyewear, because they mentioned something about eyewear. What we should be doing, or what I would tend to do, I would probe them on the eyewear, get as much information about their wearer experience with that particular pair of glasses, get as much detail in terms of the regularity of when they're changing their glasses, how often have they had upgrades being done on that pair of spectacles, how many pairs of spectacles do they have, all of those questions. You have to get all of that information. And the level of confidence that you have in all the eyewear on your shelves then probes you to get to a point where you can say, I've got the right piece of frame or right pair of frame that you will be able to love and enjoy wearing. So you deal with everything pertaining to the frame right there and there. Everything else then can come after that. But you need to personalize how you treat the patients. We've got this thing where we go into this normal routine. Patient comes in, mentions something specific. You don't seal the deal on that which they mentioned. You go on and book an appointment and only wait to secure all that information at the appointment. Why can't you seal the deal at the level at which the patient presents you with a problem? Another example, patient comes in and says, you know what, I got these glasses from this particular optometrist and I had an issue with the coating and they never got it solved. Why are you going to start with your normal routine? Educate the patient right there and there with everything about the coating. So the whole thing about this for me, what I'm getting from it is, let's listen to our patients and then address the needs of the patients as they're presenting to us. Then all of this is extra. It's bonus material for us, bonus resources that we have in making sure that that patient journey in our practices is exceptional. So it's a coating thing, check. Where did they get the glasses from? Check with that particular practice. Educate them on the coating. Get your optometrist in. Let them know, let the patient know everything that they need to know about the coating. Perhaps they had an inferior coating because they had an inferior lens. So you have an opportunity right there and there to educate the patient on the coating. And you win them over there. Ah, that's why that was happening. Oh, I was not cleaning it properly. Oh, because of the needs of my visual requirements, I needed to have a better or more advanced coating on my lenses. Perhaps the coating that was recommended was not ideal for the prescription and the index of the lens material of the lens that was prescribed. Educate the person, get them into your confidence level right there and there. Then you add in all other stuff. The time you do the handover to say, Optom, this patient is booked for an appointment on this day, and this is what I discussed with the patient. You see how you have personalized the journey of that particular patient. The next one, you started it at the level of, it was a simple eye examination. They just wanted to make an appointment, and you're making the appointment. Let's move away from just doing things the same way every single day. But get to a point where we say, like, think about this morning's presentation that we did. One of the big things that we highlighted was with all the things that you need to start thinking about, what you can start investing in your practice and elevating it. We mentioned digitizing a lot of your communication platforms. Already, that's something within your reach, that as you go back to your practices, you can start thinking, wait a minute, we might not have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of rands to invest in technology from an equipment point of view, but we can improve the way we're communicating internally and externally. Boom, that's a solution. So this conference that you're attending, phenomenal. But if you're not going to prioritize going back to the respective practices and say, you know what, this was mentioned at the practice, at the conference, this was mentioned at the practice, let's investigate it further. Let's look at, with everything that we've been learning, where can we stay, where can we then prioritize, what are the practice needs, and what do we need to prioritize first, and then we can implement. That session that we had in the morning, easy to solve. This one here, there's a course, there are courses, already has different courses online that you can be able to go, subscribe, and get certification based on the information that you have learned. Boom, second thing that you have gained. So even at the level of a staff member, you want to know how you add value? It's your responsibility, because who's doing the admin? You guys are doing the admin. You get to see all the tedious processes that are in the practice. Why not go out of your way to investigate what's out there in the market right now that we can say, let's look at improving the way we're communicating there, how we're storing information there, how we're collecting data there. Then you're taking that information and say, practice owner, this is the solution. Or as an optometrist that's sitting here, is then looking at, I need to start changing how I'm currently doing things because we're not as efficient as we possibly can. Then this is the second phase. Then you say, guys, as a team, how many opportunities are we missing out because we're not communicating effectively from a spec style perspective? So now it's the second project that you can take on and then say, okay, let's look at if all of us, if there's 5 of us in the practice and all of us do a course, does that mean that all 5 of us are going to become much better in terms of how we're communicating with patients pertaining to eyewear selection? Yes. How is that going to impact the practice? Oh, it's going to impact the practice this way, this way, this way, this way. You've got 2 solutions that are actually cost effective, whereby you can actually transform your practice this year. Let this not be another conference where you're attending session after session, but you're not thinking to yourself, I got that little nugget there, I got that little nugget there. How can I quickly make sure that going back to the practice, we start looking at ways in which we can implement this. So I hope you enjoyed Wendy's presentation. Those that were looking forward to hearing me, Askis, we had that session in the morning. But I think with the 2 combinations of the presentation from the morning and this one, completely separate, but both of them are giving you tangible solutions that you can be able to go back into your respective practices and implement. Any questions, anyone? All right, thank you very much. Don't forget, as you're going out, Irina Lombard and I.
No, sorry, nobody's going out.
Oh,
sorry.
Irina Lombard and I have written a sales and dispensing book. So we do a deep dive in sales pertaining to optometry practices, as well as dispensing pertaining to optometry practices. Irina has over 30 years experience as an optical dispenser, and I've got almost 20 years experience in the sales aspects of optometry. So come by the stand, come and collect these pamphlets, sign up for pre-orders of the book, and get more details at stand number 41 pertaining to the book. It's going to change your guys' lives in a major, major way. Confidence levels, everything. All right, guys.
Oh, thank you so much, Ivy. I think another...